sometimes people maybe should put some effort in improving the pronunciation, because sometimes the issue is not really the accents that you speak with, but it's actually the pronunciation.
When I living in UK in London, I never speak outside Italy English. For me, it was very difficult to try to speak with the other person.
I do think that your native language affects not just the accent, but the pronunciation for sure. There are sounds that sometimes you don't even hear.
It's not really important, the accents, but I think that people should put more effort in learning the right pronunciation of the word. So what need to be practiced is the actual pronunciation. Doesn't matter the accents, that can be Spanish, Indian, French, but I think the pronunciation is more important than the accent.
There are a few cases where, for example, with Italian, we don't pronounce H. For us, it's a mute character, you know. So even if you practice and you try to hide your accent, there are really sounds that you never pronounced before, like, you know, hotel. It's something that you never say in Italian. You never really have that sound. So it's quite tricky to train your accent and your pronunciation to become as good as a pronunciation of an Englishman.
I actually work in a place that is really multicultural. So there are people really coming from everywhere. I don't think we should lose our accents. I don't think that accents is really a big issue. It's true that you need to get used at any time a new accent, but if you work with the people daily, it's something that will come with the time.
Sometimes your accent and your language plays really a big role when you try to learn a new language. I noticed especially in French for the E character, for the E letter, it's hard to notice what's the difference between the different accents that a single letter has got. And it's not because you're not able to pronounce it. The problem is even to understand when you hear the sound, what's the difference to reproduce it.
I don't have anything against accents, because I think it's part of your own culture. They're part of your own personality. And you should have an accent, especially maybe when you're speaking in your native language. But if you want to make yourself understood by a variety of people, then I think every one of us should make a bit of an effort to speak as clearly as possible, not sounding English native or American native, but just having some sort of international English accent, or, you know, the language in question accent.
I think that we are talking about two different situations. One, when we talk about dialects regarding our language, native language. And the other consideration is about someone speaking with an accent on a second language that is probably not his own native language. I guess that talking about the dialect, it is something that for sure it's really interesting to understand and to study, because it's about heritage and it's about our history. And say that, I guess that everybody should, in any country, should try to speak language without dialect, without accent, just because it should be easy, say, to speak the same language for everybody. So it's important to know our history, but it's more important to communicate properly. And it's also more difficult for someone coming from another country, another language, try to understand someone that is another language, but with a dialect, with an accent that it's really difficult to understand. So there are, different contexts, I guess.
I tried to go in the class, and in the class was a different culture. me there to improve the English. For me, it was difficult when, for example, Indian people or Asian people try to speak English from maybe different from Spanish, because it's, for me, it's very easy to understand one culture near mine. So the Spanish people was more easy to understand than in Indian people also. So for me, it's so important try to don't use your accent or your way. So if you're Italian, you try to speak good English without accent. For me, it's important to understand it because I have problem.
I've never practiced acting, but I know that they train them to sound flat without any accents. Exactly. So maybe it's something that you bring along when you start learning a new language. So I think that would definitely help.
I've always wanted to try my hand at acting in English as well. I've always wanted to take some courses here in London as well, but I still haven't at the time. But I did try, and it's true that it not only, I mean, maybe I'm diverting a little, but not only do you learn to speak properly and clearly, and possibly without an accent, with the proper, phonetics, really clearly and thoroughly, but you also understand how to breathe while you're speaking, and how to project your voice to make yourself heard, even at a distance. And that's also a part of how you can develop your skills to be an excellent public speaker, because we were talking about public speaking 5 minutes ago, and that's also actually a very good tool. But I think definitely acting helps you a lot, because it also helps you speak in public and speak as clearly and as clearly as possible.
Every people I met were very take care about my feeling, because they know about was clumsy in this way, because for me it was very difficult to speak, because I'm good at listening and reading, but in that time I didn't have enough word to speak in a good way. So they understand this, and they were very nice in this way. No joke for me. No, very nice.
If I'm not wrong, I was getting a bus, and to the driver, I tried to ask. I guess probably if that bus was going in the right direction.
Okay.
And so I said the name of a city that probably for sure I said it wrongly, but the problem is that the driver was acting like I don't know, was a tragedy, because for him I don't understand what are you saying. Well, I'm trying to let me understand. It's not really good if you are acting like that. So
no,
please,
not really.
Be kind, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe he was drunk.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, they should be more understanding. I mean, they should appreciate when someone is making an effort to speak the language that you're of the country that you're visiting. So sometimes I found this as well, that sometimes, people, I don't know, even in here, even though London is a little bit different, because no one is from London, really. You get so many nationalities. So maybe London is not a good example. But sometimes I find that people look down on you, and they think, oh, you're a foreigner, so of course you're not going to express yourself clearly. So I don't want to waste time with you. How about this?